Making sure you understand the value of good relationships and the importance of them are very important. They're important because when you're working in such a big company, you need to sustain good relationships to keep the place running. If you don't have good relationships, you'll start to see conflict, and those conflicts aren't in the best interest of either the company or the client. But when you do have good working relationships, you start to see that things work better, you start to see that people are more productive, you also start to see that work comes out better. And for that reason, I believe that it's the most important and most vital thing you can probably have in a company. No one wants to work in a place where people aren't getting on with people, and obviously we do work in the real world where people might not always get well on with people personally, but when you're at work, it's always good to have a good working relationship. That way, everything keeps ticking, and you keep your client happy, as well as your managers and colleagues and fellow other working people. Acknowledging people's strengths and accomplishments is a really key thing. It's important because someone might not be good in an area you're good in, but kind of acknowledging that they've done well in that sector is always nice to hear. As a colleague myself, if I've done something really well, I always want to hear from my fellow colleagues that I've done great, because that gives me an insight of I've done great and I'm happy what I'm doing. Also, kind of acknowledging your colleagues' accomplishments are good, because if they've accomplished something good, like for example here at Spark we had a fellow colleague who had one retail week where he had to do a 24-hour hackathon, and that was quite a big accomplishment for him, but from him winning, we all supported him and congratulated him, and I think he felt a nice warmth of support from his fellow colleagues. It made him feel like he's wanted here, it made him feel like his hard work hadn't gone in vain, and I think that's always a nice thing to feel. No matter who you are, no matter how small your role is, or no matter how small the job you've done, hearing that you've done a good job is always a great thing to hear. Dealing with conflict is something no one really wants to deal with, to be honest. It's not a great thing to have, but as I said, we do live in the real world. It can happen. It can happen very often. But you should always take the right steps to dealing with conflict. The first step I would say with dealing with conflict is, for me at Spark, if I was to have a conversation with someone, I'd go to my line manager, Natalie. I feel like Natalie is the perfect person to go to someone for something like this, because she will know the best way to handle it. She's very experienced in her role. She'll tell me the next steps, what could happen. I think ways of dealing with conflict are always bringing it out in the open to either the person you're having conflict with or a manager who supervises both of you. It's always important to nip it in the bud as soon as possible so it doesn't spread within the office, because you could start to see distances between, groups, or distances between colleagues, which is never handy for anyone in a working office or working environment. So I would say nipping it in the bud is really important. Also, conflict is never something that anyone wants. It's just something maybe that happens out of little situations, and it can happen by working closely with people. I mean, you see probably more of your colleagues than you do your family at times. So at times it becomes a second family. So conflict is almost normal within families. So dealing with conflict is highly important. Teamwork is a really, really important thing. Promoting teamwork is just as important as building good relationships. Teamwork is what makes the dream work, as they say. So making sure that you maintain good teamwork, not just with your colleagues but with your clients as well, because you could be on a project. So here at Spark we work within projects, so you could be on a project for, who knows, 8 weeks, 6 weeks. So making sure that you maintain good teamwork with their clients, with their client colleagues, and your colleagues here are just as important as anything else. without it, you might not have the best client's interest at heart. So it may be hard to communicate, but making sure that you have that good working relationship is great and is the key for you to get the most out of your work. Understanding your client's requirements are really important, because without understanding the requirements of what you're needed to do, you're unable to complete the job that has been asked of you. So making sure you include your constraints, so your time constraints, and what you can limit yourself to is really, really important. You should never set targets for yourself that you can't reach, but I'll touch on that later. But making sure that you go in depth of what's required of you, making sure you're in depth of what you need to prepare, what you need to kind of show them. The client is always right in this kind of matter, so you're working for them essentially, so make sure that you're highly prepared for this is beyond important. And if you weren't highly prepared for it, it's something that will be able to tell off really, really early in your work, and you really don't want that to happen for yourself and for the company that you're working for. So yeah, it's really important. Setting reasonable expectations is something that's really, really important also. It's something that I've had to now come to terms with for my work here at Spark. An example of this was I was on a project where I had to make a video, like I am doing now, and it needed to be edited and cut down. And I kind of set my expectation of I'll complete within a day and a half, and it really wasn't. It wasn't complete within a day and a half. And by me not completing in a day and a half, it kind of stopped other people doing other things, and it wasn't really a good situation to be in. So what I've learned from that is you have to set yourself reasonable goals. If you don't, it will show, and it's possibly the worst thing you can do. You can't miss deadlines, they're really important. So by setting reasonable goals, it's like the person who you're doing it for understands that you set this time where you need to finish this piece of work by. And for yourself, it's like you're not trying to rush work that can be done efficiently, and being efficient is really important when setting expectations of work. So yeah. Understanding how to deal with colleagues and client is extremely, extremely crucial. You can't deal with them the same. Your colleagues aren't your employers in such, because your clients are such your employers. Well, here they are anyway, because they charge you per day. So you have to be able to communicate with your colleagues in a different way, so that could be a bit more socially than it is professionally. But with your clients, you always have to deal with them one way, which is professionally, with respect, inquisitive, so just always on the ball, knowing what they want. But it might not just be face-to-face communication. It could be via email, so you might not email the same way that you do with your colleagues. So with your colleagues, you may say thank you, but with a client, you might say yours sincerely or kind regards, or especially with your colleagues here, with our colleagues here, we use a system called Slack, and Slack is it will pop up here. Should pop up. No, there we go. Slack is a system where it's basically an in-network messaging system, and you wouldn't do that with your clients. You would strictly use emails with your clients or phone calls. So yeah, communicating with colleagues and clients are really important. Interacting positively with clients, colleagues, anyone you come to face with in a working environment is really important. You don't really want to interact with them negatively. It doesn't rub off well on either you or them. It's not a great way to start a working relationship either. It's just really important to interact with people positively, with good energy, making sure you're always willing to work, making sure you're always on the ball, making sure that you're there no matter what is always good. I know from personal experience, if someone interacts with me positively, I feel like we can kick off now. I'm ready to work. Not to say that if you interact with me negatively, I'm not ready to work, but it's always good to have positive energy around you. I'm a firm believer in if someone's positive around you and working fastly and just always feeding you information that I'm going to work harder and much better for you. So yeah, working with negative people is never great. But there's these mornings where you haven't had your coffee and you're not off to a great start. But working with positive people is always important. Providing a complete answer in transparency is very, very important. As I said, from personal experience, I was asked if I would be able to finish a piece of work in time. I kind of gritted my teeth and said, yeah, but if I was honest from the start, it would have made a great big help. So that's like, you have to be quite transparent when you're working in huge companies, big companies, startups, anywhere really in the working environment. You have to be very transparent. You can't hide behind bushes, metaphor, if that is metaphor. You can't hide behind people, you can't hide behind lies, you just have to be very honest from the start, especially with your stakeholders. Your stakeholders are the people who are top, who are really employing you, who have invested in you. So being honest with them is only going to help you and only help them. If you do lie or you aren't transparent or you aren't fully honest, it will tell in the long run, and you really don't want that to happen. Now, understanding who your stake is really, really important. It's basically essentially the person who you report to, the person who's invested in you, the person who you're doing this piece of work for. So, for example, if I had a client and let's say HSBC is my stake, they're the people I'd report to as well as my managers here. But essentially, I'm doing a piece of work for my stake. There's things that you always have to do with your stake, which are communicate well with them. Just always be reportive. So if they need any works or if they need anything, just always be there for them. So yeah, your stake is really, really important. Without your stake, you really don't have any work. So yeah, if you don't really have a good understanding of your stake, it will show also, because you have to be alert and just always have an understanding of who you're doing a piece of work with. Always do your research. Research is really, really, really an important thing. So doing research on your stake is really important before you go into any kind of piece of client work. Now, prioritizing stakeholders is also a massive thing. So you're doing a piece of work for them. It's how powerful can you make that work for them, really? No, it's wrong. Prioritizing stakeholders are really important. They are, as I said, the people who you work for. You always have to make sure that their objectives are met. Without their objectives being met, you don't have any piece of work. Making sure that you prioritize what they're essentially asked you to do. Make sure that you're always on it. Make sure that your research that you've done is coming into effect for the piece of work that you're completing. Making sure that you're hitting every task, you're communicating day in, day out with them if they need anything. If you need anything, making sure that comes across to them. Basically making sure that at last minute nothing comes to fail. As I said, I have experience of that, so it's always good to make sure that you prioritize your stakeholders. Nothing to come in between that, not your personal life, not your working life. Just making sure that their work is met is really important. The purpose of communication in a company is to get information from one place to another. Personal information is highly important. it could be done in several ways, from emails to phone calls to messaging to text, social media. Messaging could be done many various ways. But at Spark, we use things such as Slack, such as emails, such as phone calls. These are all used to reach clients and other colleagues. We do this to inform. So the one way of passing information could be to inform someone or something. So let's say if you had a meeting and you need to be at 10 o'clock, we would send out an email saying, hi, blah blah, could you attend this meeting, blah blah, and then we'd have the meeting. So that's one way of informing someone. If you weren't able to communicate with people, communication would obviously break down. That could lead to you missing pieces of work, miscommunication with things, so maybe not being fed all the information that you need to do a piece of work, which is a barrier at the end of the day. So you want to tell someone something, so you might have to instruct someone to do something. So for example, I could instruct someone who's recording this video to bring their camera and make sure they've set up. That's an instruction. An example of instructing someone could be here at Spark. I needed to attend a workshop, so I had to make sure I was set up. My camera was set up and I was able to record. If I wasn't instructed to do so, I wouldn't have known that I needed to set up my camera and was able to record. So that's why instructions are really important. As well as that, also suggestions. So suggestions and discussions are really important. So you have to always be open to being able to suggest and discuss things. If you're unable to do that, you can't really work in a working environment, because you'll just be sitting on your toes or sitting on your hands the whole time, which means basically you'll be shy and timid to share your ideas. And here at Spark, they're not really fond of people who are scared to share their ideas. It's more of a thing where you're free flowing, you just add value, whatever idea you have, you share it with the group. So yeah, if you're not able to share and discuss ideas, then it's hard for you to get your point across. And that's really important here. Negotiations are also a really important tool. If you're able to negotiate, it means you're able to put a deal together, to go back and forth with someone on something. At Spark, they negotiate deals all the time. They negotiate with clients. If a client wants something, then they will go away about it. So it could be that they have to pay a charge for a colleague here. So Spark someone head of Spark might negotiate a price for that. Negotiations are really important tool. Without negotiation, there would be no back. Someone would just send an offer, you just say agree. But negotiation allows you to also be a primary part of whatever it is that you're negotiating on. You have to make sure that whoever you're communicating with understands the purpose of the communication. So that may mean making sure that it's clear. So one way of communication could be me sitting here speaking to whoever's there now, making sure that I'm clear when they're understanding. If they're not sure, then I should kind of ask if they're not sure. Another way of clear communication could be via email. So you might not email a client the same way you'll email a friend. With a friend you might put loads of slang, you might put smiley faces, stuff like that. But with a client you can't. You have to make sure it's clear and precise, and making sure that information is fed all the way through. You have to make sure that you're dynamic to situations. So by that, things may change. So being dynamic means you're flexible, you're able to maybe drop something and pick up something at the same time. Also being dynamic is versatile, is another word for versatility, so make sure that you're versatile. At Spark here, it could be that I have a project now, I've got a video project here now, but someone may walk through the door and say, listen David, I need to create a video. I need to be able to say, yeah, I'm able to pick that up, but maybe as soon as I finish this, then pick it up. So it could be that I'm needed outside in 2 minutes and I just need to pick something up. Being dynamic is also a versatile tool because it shows that you're also willing to be able to work or you're versatile. So that's a really important thing to have. Yeah. So things that might disrupt the effectiveness of communication. This could be various things. It could be that someone's not by their desk. It could be someone's on holiday. It could be someone's in the hospital. Making sure that you kind of know these things are important because, for example, I was on holiday and there was a piece of work that I should have put forward before I left. I did leave the piece of work, but so the person wasn't able to reach it and they needed to reach me. But however, they didn't know I was on holiday, so it's something that I should have made clear to tell them I'm on holiday before I left. If I had done this, then they would have had me to emergency call me or text me, and the piece of work they would have had accessibility to it easier, and that's something I should have done. Because obviously with the past history as well, of me not being on holiday or me being away out of the office and people not being able to reach me, I should have been able to leave that piece of work for them so they had access to it. So yeah.